Welcome to Perfectly Average, the series where I teach you how to be slightly above average at your favorite games. Today's game is Escape from Tarkov, one of the most mechanically detailed first-person shooters in the market, and also the most hardcore PvP game that you've probably ever played. You'll have lots of moments like this. I'm gonna walk down.
Did you get him?
No, he got me. How am I not hitting him? But you'll have even more moments like this.
He's still looking at me, by the way. He's down on this end. From you, it's gonna be your side. Like, if you go up that other staircase, he's gonna be on your side. I'm gonna shoot at the wall just to distract him.
Bro, that dude was looting, didn't
there's
even
one
fucking
more
hear
issue.
you.
Got him.
Oh.
And with the right people, moments like this. Oh, that guy's name is Gosh the Daughter.
Yeah, I
That's
got
a-
you. I got your daughter, dude.
That's phenomenal.
Gosh,
right
your
there.
daughter. Dude,
Gosh.
you know there's somebody at BSG's like, I'm gonna put this in here.
I'm gonna put this in.
Tell me if this sounds familiar. My experience with this game used to be that I would be so ready to play, progress far, do so many raids in a day, and then I do one, and I just never want to play the game again. I'll sit around for 30 minutes and just die running to extract from who knows where. I was so sick of being below average, and I just always wondered how people kept playing the game. And the thing is, I loved the game and the whole design of the game. I just didn't like playing it at all. So here's how I overcame these struggles, adapted, and I started to conquer the game that is Escape from Tarkov. Honestly, the number one tip I can give you for this game is to completely improve your mindset. You could have the greatest armor and the most fully modded weapons in the game, but your gear is only going to go as far as you're able to take it. If you play like you're going to die, then you're pretty much always going to die. Your goal is to strike your opponent at the correct opportunity and let them make the mistakes. This game is designed to kick your butt at every single corner. The players, the scavs, and even the traders expect you to be scared and give up at every single moment. But this is the one piece of information you might have heard. It's ridiculously important if you want to play this game and a lot more consistently. Whenever you bring anything to raid, it basically doesn't belong to you. Just think of it that way. It belongs to the raid. You have to expect to lose it, so don't bring in anything that you don't want to lose just yet or can't afford to lose. Even the best players in the game aren't going to extract every single raid, and it's very important because if you're playing with gear fear, then you're just going to sit still, be static, and sit in unsafe positions, or just sitting in the corner while the other players in the raid are just going to run circles around you, and the raid's going to keep moving. You're just going to be stuck there. So I would just say if you escape 2 raids in a row with the same gear, it's far above average than for most people, and you're maximizing the value of that gear set if you're doing that. You're going to die a lot, but that's going to happen with this game quite a bit, and eventually you're going to have a huge win that makes up for everything that you've lost and more, especially when it comes to questing. Your mindset will improve as you kind of have a better understanding of the game, and you'll have calculated strategies and better survival instincts to escape from raids. And we'll go over a few things of that nature and go a little bit beyond the basics that helped me understand the game a lot quicker. And the key word here is survival, not necessarily killing everybody in the game, but just to survive and to get through. You don't have to kill everything in the whole map in order to escape and survive, especially since survival is just an unpredictable thing in this game anyways. But if you can gather your thoughts tightly, keep your mentality strong, you will succeed a lot more, and I guarantee you things are going to start being a lot better for your raids. The best players in Tarkov have the strongest mindsets while they're in any combat encounter, and their situational awareness is top of the line. You don't have to be the most aware person in the world to progress, but it's best to keep your head in the game and to follow a guideline during each encounter. You'll notice that a lot of people will fight you, they just won't do anything, or they are doing the most wild stuff you've ever seen, jumping around and moving into different buildings and angles, and then they'll just end up killing you. And it's not necessarily about being aggressive, but it's about being proactive. Whether it be with your plans or your strategy or with your execution. And a lot of people will probably tell you to be more aggro, but really you just need to be more prepared. And the first thing you need to know is to learn how to make the best moves for cover and how to not get caught off guard, and then you need to have a plan and execute a strategy. So I would say to start, if you feel like you're getting one-tapped consistently in the middle of nowhere, especially as a solo player, because it can get very frustrating, you need to be very aware of your surroundings and kind of like hide your silhouette as you're running around and as you're shooting at people from a long distance. You want to look at yourself kind of in third person and think if someone at the hill behind you can see you, or maybe someone from like a tower or on the road behind you can see you. Are you weaving through cover and bushes or forklifts or whatever it might be? Because if you're playing as a solo, you're not going to have someone watching your back for you. So you kind of need to have a spidey sense and have your own back for you, but not necessarily like watching it, but just being in cover from that area while you're looking ahead of you. And it's also probably best to avoid the edges of the map as much as you can, because there are a lot of rocks and walls there. And since those are white, and usually you're in like a lot of flora areas and your character is green, it's best to stay away from that because you stand out quite a bit. And not only that, but a lot of players are looking there for stash runs, or if they're looking to pick off some new players that are running around and they don't know the map. So another thing is that you need to learn how to use your sprint properly, because the headsets in this game make your sprinting very, very loud, and you'd actually be surprised with how effective just walking is and how hard it is to hear people while combat is going on with the wind and all the extra sounds that are in the game. So you want to use sprint when you're not in cover to move from cover to cover, and you want to walk and weave when there's a lot of cover for you so that you're not making that noise when you're approaching new areas and buildings. So now that you're moving around the map a little bit better, you just need to learn how to create a plan during your combat encounters, whether it be with a scav or a PMC. You should do it for both, because you're going to make noise either way, and creating a quick plan can be pretty easy, but you have to execute that plan. Even if your plan is wrong or it's bad in that situation, or maybe it didn't turn out the way you thought it would, it's better to actually have bad plans than to wait for the perfect opportunity. Because in survival, the perfect opportunity is probably never going to happen, and it's good to just create quick processes and learn from it, and you'll get better at it. It'll become muscle memory the more that you do it. So this is kind of my quick process that I do while I'm in a fight with a scav or a PMC. So I try to think of the location of me, my enemies, my teammates, if I have any, and the potential third-party locations that people would be if they heard us fighting. And I also try to make sure that I listen to the weapons that I hear, not necessarily what they are, but like the rate of fire of those weapons, and you can kind of make a context clue with that and assume if they're using an SMG or an AR or a bolt action, and compare that to what weapon I'm using, because that'll affect the next two options that I have in my process. So I either plan my exit according to the position of enemies and I execute on exiting. If they have an SMG and I'm in a close quarter combat situation, I don't want to be there, so I will either exit, or I can plan a push, whether it be a slight fallback to get into longer distance to get away from the SMG if I'm outside, or I can go for a wide flank if I have a bolt action and create the element of surprise a little bit. Or if I have a lot of armor and I have a better close quarters weapon, I can plan a slow push. And the next step is to execute it. You have to execute on your plans. You can't second guess what you're thinking, and if you do that, you're going to end up dead a lot of times. So you need to execute on a plan that you create. And it's good to have plan Bs, but you don't want to have too many, because you'll end up second guessing yourself a lot. And if I fail on that plan, then I fall back, switch positions, change my angle, or if I succeed, I repeat the previous steps above while I'm looting, and I'm listening out for those weapons, I'm listening out for more footsteps, and then I'll kind of go off of that exit strategy that I was formulating in the beginning and execute on that, because you never know where the third parties are. And after that, just rinse and repeat. Just keep on having that process going through your mind with every single combat encounter you have. You kind of have to rely on your gut feelings if you should use your exit strategy to survive or to push forward and get a better edge on your target. And sometimes at the moment, it's very difficult to make a good decision right away. So I would say in most fights, if you feel like you're in a difficult spot, when in doubt, push backwards, find a new position, and gather some information along the way, whether it be their shots or if you can hear them move around. Tracking targets is really difficult in this game now with the recoil changes. Automatic fire is hard to get control of. especially at long ranges now. And even in close quarters, moving to a new spot is going to stop you from getting pinched by a team. And that's the last thing you want to have happen to you, because if you get stuck between two different angles, you are never going to get out. And you kind of want to pick off a team one by one before that pinch could ever happen. Even if it feels like a bad idea, you have to make a play. And confidence will build up the more that you play. And it's one of the most important qualities to have in the game, is being confident in those decisions that you make. You process the information you get quickly, make a decent plan to execute. And as I said before, it's better to execute a plan than to have no plan at all or to wait for the perfect opportunity. Sound 100% is going to be your best friend for gathering information and making a plan, because that's how you're going to get your information in the most safe way possible. You either do that, or you do a quick peek to see where they are peeking, or if you still don't see them, but they see you peek real quick, you can hear their shot, even if it's suppressed. You can tell if they're peeking down that hallway, or if they're somewhere at an angle where they can see you, but if you're still hiding behind that tree, maybe they can't see you clearly. Making confident moves is better than making perfect moves. Survival is all about proactiveness, and most of the time it's not going to look clean, it's not going to look pretty. Even a lot of the fights that you see your favorite streamers do, they're quite messy. They have a lot more cleaner fights because they're confident and they've been through those scenarios before. You just need to develop that muscle memory into gathering that information and learning how to execute properly with it. And unfortunately, that's just going to come through trial and error, and you have to accept that. And that's why you use lighter gear sets before you start getting into the heavy duty stuff. So how do we get better in combat? Fortunately, the best way to learn combat in Tarkov is to play solo. As scary as playing by yourself sounds, you have the advantage of everybody being your enemy. So that sounds really weird, right? But when you play with a team, you have to keep track of your teammate. And if you hear somebody, you got to ask your whole team, hey, is that you? And there's all this communication that can happen. And you can probably understand from your team play that there's miscommunication everywhere. The streamers do this too. This happens all the time because nobody has all their screens up and there's no HUD to see where your team is. So you can use that to your advantage as a solo player and confuse your enemies. You don't have to worry about that coordination like they do, so you can kind of be the distraction to hear if they've made that footstep or whatever it may be. So what weapon should you start bringing in? So I understand that you're probably going to still have some gear fear and maybe you want to be minimalist a little bit. I mean, if you were to ask me what the best gun to learn in the game is, it's definitely the SKS, because if you master that gun, you will be able to use any gun in the game that you want to. Because all you have to do is bring the gun, a couple rounds in the pockets, and you don't need to bring anything else. Just go into factory and just pop some heads a bit. Scavs, PMCs, whatever it may be. You can do just about anything with that gun because the ammo is pretty good, cheap. Like the good early ammo. We'll rarely pick them up from insurance, or pick them up so you can get them back from insurance easier. And the DMR sniper class weapons of the game are technically the worst class of weapons, but they will teach you how to be patient. They'll teach you how to be precise with your shots, and you'll kind of learn how the flow of combat should be in the game, because it's not just about running and gunning, even when you have the top tier metal weapon. So with the SKS, you will usually have to just do some quick peeks, do some pot shots, make sure you were on target because you only have 10 rounds, but you have bigger rounds. And the gun is going to be loud too, so you're going to have to reposition to get around them at a different spot and to pop them from somewhere else. So you're normally just going to pop them a few times, reposition, pop them a few times, and you're just going to grind them out. Eventually you'll either headshot them, or they can't continue the fight and they'll go, or you'll just have them dead outright. And once you start to use the better weapons, you'll realize too that your gun might not fit certain situations, so you either need to take the fight elsewhere, leave it, or if you have like a scope, maybe apply more pressure from a different range. Or if you heard the guy next door spraying his SMG all over the place like a kid with a super soaker, if your gun has a lower fire rate, then bait them into using all their ammo first and then go in for the kill. That one works a lot because people get really, really scared when they see somebody and they'll just try to hit fire you to death. But if you just peek real quick, hide away, they use all their ammo and then you can catch them off guard. And either that, or you can just throw some suppressive fire and get them to stay in cover for a little bit. But you don't want to use too much ammo, especially with the SKS. If you want a different floor, maybe try to do a quick flank, catch them off guard, especially in the dorms area, because you can run around the metal staircase outside real quick and just go on different levels. It's really just about letting them make the mistakes, let them put pressure on themselves, and you just maximize your gear set through positioning and controlling your own fight. So if all of the above is starting to come a bit together, but you're still having some bad raids, it's totally okay. It's going to happen a lot. But this is where finding quality friends to play with is important, and the key word here is quality, because you need to click well with your teammate in the game and in real life, because it'll help you cool off after those brutal raids, those bad raid streaks. And your teammate can also assist you with insurance to dump your stuff away, to help with that gear fear mindset. And they can also apply suppressive fire for you, watch your back while you're making moves. They can get you out of a bad position. You don't even have to do that. You can do 2 solo play methods and split your team up and travel on both sides of the map and meet up later, because you can get loot from multiple areas. And you can also gather twice the amount of information around the map. This one's a little bit more advanced, but it's just something to kind of think about and try out. And you can also improve your communication that way. And it's a key skill to have so that you can be a good teammate, and you can master this in general, just a little bit of trial and error. There's no like true way to learn how to like perfectly coordinate with your teammate, but here's a few things to keep in mind. Use the least amount of words possible to convey your information so that your teammates can hear and process their own set of information and add your information to theirs. So you can chat around and have as much fun as you want to. I'm not saying it has to be completely strict military rules, anything like that. But if you do hear a footstep or you see someone, you want to quickly convey that message and focus on that fight and saying, oh shoot, there's somebody in front of us, or like something like that. Say, guy 2-story, dorm front yard, blue helmet. Like just short words like that, just cutting the extra detail and the unnecessary chatter can help your teammate follow up and start processing their information a lot quicker. And sometimes there's maps where there's like nothing but trees. You have to find a quick way to use those landmarks to your advantage. And that's where the trial and error comes in, because your call out locations and where you go with your teammate is going to be a lot different for everybody. And that will just come with playing. But if you have the compass, call out that number and then use another nearby landmark with that. What you also want to do is while you're looking around and scouting, while you and your team are moving around the map, just have those callouts in mind while you're looking. So if you're like looking at a rock with a tree to see if there's a guy there, kind of have like that, kind of plan that call out before somebody is even there or you even see them. Just take note of those surroundings and just make a very quick name for what you see, just to have that call out ready if someone shows up. It sounds very simple, but this is a very difficult thing. So just in general, try to make the call outs easier for your teammate, and they will start following up with you a lot better. So with all this information in mind, what is my best loadout if you wanted to start improving as a solo player? It's 100% personal preference what you want to bring in based on your economic situation, but I would say the most important investment you can make in your loadout is your survival tools, which is the meds and the grenades. Meds is an obvious reason, and it's mostly just because the scavs are going to eat through your lighter loadout, but they will extend your raids longer, and if you're starting to get stimulants, then you can extend your fights beyond a couple players. And the grenades are the single most important tool for you as a solo player, and you must invest in these because they can basically be used as your teammates, and they will save you countless times if they're used correctly. Grenades should mostly be used as a distraction to create cover for yourself, especially in those indoor encounters. You can throw a grenade almost anywhere, and if an enemy hears it, they will either have to look away and run, or they'll just do nothing and hide, and they won't be peeking. So you can use that to your advantage. They are the cover that your teammates would normally provide for you, and it allows you to isolate players that are in a group together, rendering one of them inactive because of that grenade. So I usually use my grenades in the dorms a lot because it's difficult to change positions in that area. So to force the enemy to stop peeking or to kind of push somebody back a bit so that you can move to a better position, just throw that grenade. And if there are 2 guys, throw that grenade at that one guy and then focus on the other real quick, get him damaged up, and then you can probably switch heads to another guy while he's healing up. So, are you ready to escape from Tarkov? Just remember, the most important factor here is mindset. Become that Chad you've always wanted to be, but remember, you still have to survive if you want to keep that flash drive. I promise you are more than capable of playing this game and progressing as far as you've ever wanted to. I was able to progress quite far, and I'm a below average player at best, but I play when I'm focused and ready to go. Best of luck, and I'll see you next time.